Díomh agus Fultarás Hig Irish language teacher is Misha Breach. So you're very welcome back to Irish Language Teacher. My name is Breach, and today we are going to go way back to the very beginnings of the Irish language and when it would have been written down for the first time. So this takes us way back to a primitive form of the language which would have been scratched out onto large slabs of stone, and these stones are known as Ogham stones, and you can find them in various parts of Ireland, but mostly they are to be found down in the southwest in Kerry, for example. So there are examples of these stones in other countries as well, but I'm going to talk to you about the letters that were carved out to represent names in Irish way back in the primitive stages of the language, in terms of the primitive written stages of the language. So if we think about going back as far as maybe the 4th century or the 5th century, this is when we would date our first Ogham inscriptions. So they are very much, if you consider, written on the line of the stone. And if you imagine a big slab of stone, and what I want you to do is imagine you have a box and it's like a big slab of stone. Now this is obviously a very square, properly shaped stone, but the Ogham stones would have been slabs that represented a rectangle as good as they could find. And the corner of it would have represented the line. This is the line on the corner of the slab that they would have said, right, we can write on this. And when Ogham was written, it was written from the bottom up. So when you're reading anything in Ogham, start at the bottom and work your way up. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the different letters of the alphabet, and then we look at maybe how we could write something out in Ogham ourselves. So I will have this up on the Facebook page, Irish Language Teacher, and also the website, irishlanguageteacher.com. But this will just tell you you're going to start from the bottom up on a straight line, and then this details the different letters of the alphabet. Now, this was found on a website called ogham.ca, or sorry, ogham.co. So that's where I have gathered the information from. And also there are plenty of sources on the internet with regards to reading up about Ogham and also the different letters. So the letters, in terms of how they were written on the slab, you will see strokes that will either go to the left or to the right, or across the line in a horizontal fashion, or across the line in a very straight, horizontal straight, in a diagonal. So let me recap. You've got letters that go to the left, strokes that go to the left. You've got strokes that go to the right. You've got strokes that go horizontally across the line, and then you've got strokes that go diagonally across the line. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So that puts the letters into 4 categories. The lines that go to the left, the lines that go to the right, the lines that go horizontally, and the lines that go diagonally. So that's what you're going to be seeing in this lesson. So let's just start at the beginning. Okay, now I've grouped the letters just as we would if we were saying the alphabet A through to Z. So I haven't put them into their categories, but you will see the letters that go to the left, to the right, and so on. Okay, so this is just to start us off with a blank line. Imagine this is the corner line of your Ogham stone. Okay, so you'll start with your blank line. Now, the letter A can be represented as a dot, one notch, or it can be represented as one line going across horizontally. So the vowels can be represented as lines or as notches. Imagine the notches were carved into the corner of the stone. Okay. B. You can see that the B is a single line to the right. Okay. So I've tried to color coordinate these just for the video today. So you'll see that the different groups will be categorized according to color. So B has a blue color. So lines to the right. The C, 4 lines to the left. The D, 2 lines to the left. E, we have 4 notches, 4 dots, 4 notches on the line. That's the E. And then that also can be represented as 4 lines going across horizontally. Now, F, 3 lines to the right. G, 2 diagonal lines going across. H, 1 line to the left. I, again, another vowel, and it is 5 notches or 5 lines. Now, we don't have a J in Irish. K. Now, we don't have a K in Irish in the modern language, and this is really just to represent the K sound. So that is 5 lines to the left, a K sound. Now, the K sound, the K sound, is also represented by this crisscross. Okay, so it's like an X. So it's not that K sound. L, 2 lines to the right. M, 1 line one line diagonally across the central line for M. N, 5 lines to the right. Now, we also have one that is NG, the combination of 2 letters, NG. And so that should remind you maybe a little bit of our arus that we've discussed in a previous lesson, where you'll see those 2 letters come together, NG. So that's 3 lines diagonally across the central line. So 3 diagonals. O, 2 dots, 2 notches, or 2 lines. So that's our O. Now, P is 1 line in parallel to the central line. So just 1 smaller line beside the horizontal line, beside the central line, excuse me. Okay. Now again, Q is that K sound. So we have 5 lines to the left for that K sound. So you may see just a little bit of an overlap with some of the letters, but just go with it. Okay, so R, 5 lines cutting across diagonally. S, 4 lines going to the right. 4 lines going to the right. T, 3 lines going to the left. 3 lines going to the left. U, 3 dots, 3 notches, or, as we've seen with the other vowels, 3 lines cutting across horizontally. Okay, now we don't have a V in Irish, however the V sound is represented by 3 lines to the right. 3 lines to the right. Now X, again, we don't have an X in the modern language, but again, that's a sort of like sound which is represented by the crisscross X that you'll see marked there on the central line. Now Z is another letter we don't have in the modern language, but yet it's represented sound-wise by 4 strokes cutting across the line diagonally. Now, after that, we come across combinations of vowels coming together, and those are known as diphthongs. Now, don't worry too much about them. but you will see combinations of vowels come together, and these developed into a category of their own in terms of the strokes. So I've included these just here, and you may find them useful just if you have two letters in your name that come up in this combination. So AE is this crisscross, almost like a waffle shape, going to the left of the line. Okay, so a crisscross waffle shape, and it is 4 lines going horizontally and 4 lines going vertically. So that's AE. Now, EA, again, it's that same X shape going down, going across the line. So again, it's going to look similar to maybe other letters that we've seen, but that's what it is. Okay, now this letter combination of vowels, IA is like 2 X's to the right of the line, crossing over each other. So you can see that it's like an intersection of 2 roads. So 2 X's crisscrossing over each other to the right of the line. Then we have the vowels OI, and this looks like a little diamond shape going around the line for OI. And finally, we have UI, which reminds me of something you might see in sort of the hieroglyphics of Egypt, but it's like a little elbow going like that. Okay, so it's a little over, up, over, down. So it's like a little arm showing its muscles. So that's the UI. So those are the letters of the Ogham alphabet. And what I want you to do is think about how you could work with something in your classroom or with your children at home to maybe get them interested in Ogham. And what I came up with for me is basically the shoebox or an empty grocery box that you may have used. And as long as it is plain, so for example, I have an empty grocery box here, it's plain, and this is going to represent our Ogham stone. Anything where you can have that line, that line to use to write on. And don't forget that you write from the bottom up. Now the Ogham stones in Ireland, what we find is written on a lot of them are names. So it would be maybe a surname or Owen, like Owen or Mac Owen or and they were thought to mark territory. So the territory of clans in the area, it would mark their territory, or it was possibly a grave marking. So the stones were designed to have very short messages put along their centre line, just a name, for example. If the messages got any longer, they would go up, they would go over, and they would go down. So it is important that you just keep it short, because each letter in the Ogham alphabet is not just maybe 1 line. You would find that maybe for a vowel, it could be 5 lines. And it starts to get quite, not complicated, but it gets quite difficult to see the difference between the letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a box, pretend it's an Ogham stone, and in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how you could write out a name, and we'll work through that little lesson then. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and all the letters will be up on the website and the Facebook page. Slán go fóill.